This is OG Loco doing a live, weekly live. So, this is my first YouTube live. I'm transferring over from Facebook to YouTube. Uh, if I could get my 52,000 followers from Facebook, OG Local Family Reds, to subscribe, like, and subscribe OG Local Family Reds YouTube channel, I'd appreciate it. So this is a typical live I've been doing on Facebook. I do them about once a week. I'm gonna start doing them on YouTube, and just sort of tell you about me, myself, my breeding program, little philosophy in life, and just good things. So for those of you who are new to OG Local, I'm OG Local. Little background on me. Why listening to my channel can be beneficial, or it's important. I'm OG Loco. I specialize breeding in purebred American Pit Bull Terriers, specifically the old family red nose strain. So known all over the world as probably one of the best breeders of preserving the old family red-nosed working game bred dogs, bringing them back to a working status, and doing some unique crosses. A lot of my dogs are used for working events like hog hunting. They're very athletic. They're game bred dogs. They're not your typical pit bull. They're not bullies. They're old family reds, line bred for my family of dogs. Have been breeding them for over 35 years now, and those were line bred off some old family red dogs off the Hemphill strain, old family red nosed dogs, and those dogs were line bred off the old Lightner old family red nosed dogs, which were line bred off of the original Irish import old family reds that came from Ireland in the late 1800s. So that's my lane. That's what I talk about. Specifically, my breeding program and my successes and my failures on I've had in with these dogs. A lot of these stories are true. They all happen on my yard. I don't try to glamorize that. It's just these are facts. I don't mention people's names because I protect the innocent. But basically, telling the true story is important to understand the journey that I've gone through in creating the OG Local Family Red Nose Strain and preserving it and where I'm at today and where we're going in the future. So that's basically it for my first YouTube live. Hopefully we'll get a good following and we can share. So today I'm going to take you on a journey. This one's going to be interesting. So I'm going to get deep into breeding and genetics, and I want you to follow along. So I think hopefully the way I explain it will help some people in their breeding program. But I always like to start off a little philosophy, a little bit about my brand, my program. We'll get a little bit into, this is OG Local's Little Wayne. He's one of my Mayday old family red Chinaman pups I have right now, a male. He is available to a working home, but the longer he stays with me, he's growing on me. So if anyone's interested in Little Wayne, and you want a game bred working pit bull, he's a very well bred dog, and he's a great little dog. I don't think he's going to be very big. So that's it on Little Wayne, and I'll get more into his breeding into this live today. So let's talk about the OG Loco brand. This is Loco. This is my logo, the original gangster. I've had this logo and uh, Patch. Uh, I don't know, over 30 years now, I think. Almost 30 years now. Uh, OG Loco is my road name. I'm an independent Chicano biker, born in East LA, Southern California, raised in the Inland Empire. And I'm not a gangbanger. I'm not an outlaw biker. I'm a blend of independent Chicano biker, sort of a blend of those two subcultures. Uh, I just ride. I love to ride, but I use a little bit of styling from traditional Chicano culture mixed with traditional outlaw biker culture and created what I call the Chicano culture, Chicano biker cultures, which is what I embrace. Get along with everybody. I stay in my lane. I mind my own business. I just ride, talk bikes, have fun, mind my own business. Don't get caught up in drama and bullshit. Don't get caught up in shit that ain't none of my business. And I live a happy, peaceful life. So that's the OG Loco brand. There is a Facebook page, OG Loco Attire. If you want to go over there, we could order you custom original gangster thermoses. I got t-shirts. Um, I'll probably be making some hoodies and hats in the future. I only sell them right now at price on what it costs for me to make them plus shipping until we could get more of the brand out there, the OG Loco brand out there in the public. Um, the print comes in different colors. I could get the uh, bandana print in a variety of colors. Right now we have basic colors, blue, red, black. Uh, but as depending on demand, uh, we can make them the print in different colors. So this is my coffee today. These thermostats are really cool. Keeps hot things hot and cold things cold. How does the thermostat know how to do that? I don't know, but it keeps hot things hot and cold things cold. So I really like these insulated thermoses. So let's talk a little philosophy this morning. Um, and this is just how my values and how I was raised, and some of these values I seem to being lost in modern society, and as a culture, if we don't share these old values with the new generation, I think they'll get lost. So I'm going to keep this one simple. Um, I was raised with a value that a man is a man and a punk is a punk, and you're either a man or you're a punk. Uh, but that's how you're wired. You're born that way. I believe you're born that way because you're wired that way. There's certain things in life, just by the way you're wired, you cannot accept or tolerate as a man. And no matter what, those things influence your decisions and how you conduct yourself, how you live your life. I've taken that same philosophy and applied it to the dogs. The dogs are either born game or they're not game, or they're curs. They're either game or they're curs. They're born that way. It's the way they're wired. You can't make a cur dog game. It's just not wired that way. It was born a cur, it lives as a cur, and it'll die as a cur, meaning it's gonna quit. It just doesn't have deep gameness in it genetically. It's not wired that way. So there's not a whole lot you can do to make a cur a game dog. It'll eventually quit on you. And a lot of these dogs won't even work. They won't even engage. So that's why buying dogs from a reputable breeder who has a active working program is important, that your percentages of getting a game bred working dog from that breeder are higher than other breeders. So that's sort of what we're going to talk about in today's thing of a man is a man and a punk is a punk. You're born a man or you're born a punk. You can't really make a punk into a man, and it's hard to make a man. You probably can't make a true man into a punk. You're going to just die a man. Because that's the way he's wired. There's not a whole lot you can do about it. So in the terms of manning up, what I think this is what's being lost in modern day society. Is what I want to talk about. Manning up. Manning up isn't that you're a bad motherfucker, that everyone's afraid of you, that you don't have fear, you don't have, you know, you don't question yourself. Manning up is stepping up to overcome all those other things that are holding you back. You stand up like a man. You take what's coming. Win, lose, or draw, you're a man. And it's better to go down as a man than never stand up as a punk. So, really, that's what manning up is, and that's what being a man's all about. And I was raised with those values where weakness just wasn't tolerated. Is any sign of weakness, it was more or less that those values are instilled in you as a child, uh, that even when you felt fear or you questioned yourself or you hesitated, the overwhelming feeling of being not being viewed as a man dwells in your mind to where you say, fuck it, I got, I can't just sit here, you know. And many times, you know, that's what happens. It's you're mad at yourself for not standing up. You're mad at yourself for letting fear control you. To where as a warrior and as a man, you get to a point, I don't give a fuck. What's going to happen is going to happen. You know, there's really no choice for me as a man. So that's what manning up is. Um, so what I wanted to talk about is in today's society, that value uh, seems to be dying, and I see it. And I don't know if it's the technology or it's a result of the COVID, but a lot of those values of hard work and pride and honor and living like a man and standing up for what you believe in and not letting people pressure you um, into doing things you don't want to do or you don't believe in, uh, and sometimes standing alone because that's all you have is your word and your balls and your 2 feet to stand on, uh, seems to be dying. So I think, being raised and, you know, having conflicts with people and, carving out your identity. Who are you? Are you, is your identity you as a person, as a man, or your identity you as a part of a group? I think that really, group or organization really defines is what's your identity. And I know everyone's looking for identity to associate themselves with. This is who I am, either by these are my values and who I am as an independent person, or I'm a member of a group. I'm part of a group or an organization. Therefore, that's my identity and that's my value. And you see that a lot in life. But when it really gets down to it, when you're dealing with people one on one, and there is no backup, and there is no one going to be there to save you or protect you, it's really whether you're a man or whether you're a punk in life. And warriors they engage, they look for the battle. And I know many times I got into it with people like, you don't want to fuck with me because I'm related to that person or I belong to this group or that organization, and you know, we're all gonna get you later, and you're fucked up. You're gonna get fucked up and shit. And when I hear that from people, whether it's on the streets or intellectually, um, I've already won. It's like, you fear me because there ain't nobody gonna save you from me. If we're in battle and you cross that line, there ain't nobody gonna save you. That means it's time to man up. So anytime you see people that have to fall back to try to intimidate you or try to scare you into not fucking with them because they're name dropping, uh, well, that's a sign. That's a sign they're not really a man. Is because a man don't need backup. He handles his business. And life and death is like that. Is we're all gonna die. It's just how you lived your life and how you died. It's I think people fear death. I don't get it. Is we're all gonna die, but you don't let the fear of death control you. It's just like, oh, okay, well, if I die today, I died today. Did I live a good life? And that's really the philosophy I'm trying to share with people. Live in the moment, live at peace, live with pride and honor, be a man. Uh, don't let people stop you from doing the things you love in life or try to intimidate you or scare you. Just, have your word, have your honor, stand up for yourself. And I'll wrap this up. This is I always like to wrap up with pop culture because part of it is how I was raised, and also some of the things in pop culture that I identified with. And many of these things in pop culture were things in real life that have been converted into movies and songs and plays, things of that nature. So there is some true value in it. But one of the movies that always stands out, it's one of my favorite movies because I'm a cowboy too. I ride horses, I work cattle, was The Outlaw Josie Wales. And I really liked the movie Outlaw Josie Wales. He was a rebel. So I guess I identified with Josie Wales as being a rebel. But there's a scene in the movie that really is probably one of my favorite scenes that really defined, I think, the movie and the character Outlaw Josie Wales. And he was out there living with the Comanche, and the Comanche, they're starting to harass them. And anyway, he rides out to the Comanches by himself with just a rifle and a pistol to confront them. And in the movie, he says, they tell him that he's the Gray Rider. They don't have problems with him. He can go in peace. And he basically says, no, I can't. He goes, that I came to live with you or to die with you today. So that they know his word of honor was that's what he was there for. He had went in there knowing he was going to die or thinking he was going to die, and that didn't deter him. So anyway, they respected that. They respected his bravery and the fact that he was willing to die and that he was a man, which I think is something in culture you don't see today. I think today he probably would have got killed. But in the old days and in tribal, history, brave men got a pass because they were willing to die. And today, brave men don't get passes because people don't respect it like they used to. So that was one of the things that I wanted to share with today's society. I don't care, what you do for a living, if you're a cop or if you're a gangster or you're, an outlaw. The only thing that matters is if you're a man and you stand up like a man, and as a man you are respected no matter what you do or represent. It's the individual that matters. So anyway, I just wanted to share that little philosophy, manning up and being a man and what it takes to be a man and having those values that seem to be dying today. And hopefully somebody gets something out of it. Live your life as a man. You know, we were born alone, we'll die alone. It's how you lived your life, and ultimately, we're all going to die anyway. And that plays a lot into my dog breeding program. So if the breeder holds those values growing up, then he's going to look for similar traits in his dogs. So one of the things as a breeder I've always looked for is I liked a deep game dog, a dog that didn't give a fuck. I mean, when the odds were stacked against him, when he was the underdog, when basically death was inevitable, they did not hesitate and they went into battle. And as a good hunting dog, you need a dog that doesn't hesitate. He's a warrior. He's going to go into battle and he's going to accept death. And that was something that the old family breeders look for, and that's something that Bob Hemphill even advertised, that his old family red-nosed dogs, and he published this, I think in the late 40s, early 50s, when dog fighting was illegal in the United States. So I don't condone dog fighting, but as a breeder, I'm a historian, and I do my research on it, and I know what these dogs are about and what they were bred for. I use my dogs today for legal purposes, so I just want to get that disclosure out there. But you will hear me talk about the history and dog fighting, how these dogs were bred, and how their genetics play in a role. Doesn't mean I'm advocating for dog fighting or endorsing it. It's just a fact. You know, facts are facts. You can't change facts. It is what it is. So those were the things I looked in my dogs, is which of the dogs in the selection process, and I've bred a lot of dogs over 35 years. Which of the dogs in the selection process had the traits that I was looking for to move forward within the breeding program and build off of? And we're going to go into genetics pretty soon. I think before I get into genetics, I want to talk about this dude real quick. Stop biting that. So, as a breeder, and I see myself as probably one of the best, if not the best, old family red-nosed breeders in the world today. And hopefully one day I'll go down in history like Bob Hemphill and Bill Leitner and some of the greats, that the OG Loco family reds were some of the last game working bred old family red-nosed dogs. And that's really, in the end, the goal as a breeder is to do my best to make my stamp and mark uh, on history and in the dog world. That the OG Loco old family red dogs are quality dogs. They're the true representative of the working bred American Pit Bull Terrier. And so this is my shout out to my people. You know, basically my people is anybody of any race and color that are fighting the struggle in life, trying to come up, trying to make a better life for themselves. So it's non-gender. And just to clarify, the skull, okay, the OG Loco skull, people ask me, why are you into skulls? I have a lot of skull tattoos, and the Loco skull. And it's the skull in the biker community represents a has no race, a has no gender. So this is a genderless, raceless logo, and that's what the skull represents. It's universal. Basically, if you're willing to strap your balls onto a bomb, meaning you're riding a motorcycle on a gas tank, you're basically straddling a bomb, a living bomb. If that crashes, you know, you could blow up type thing. And if you're willing to do that, then the logo's for you. It's non-gender, it's non-racial, it's non-religious, it's universal. It's basically, we live life outside the law. You know, we're outsiders. Not that you're a criminal, because I'm not a criminal, but when you live on the edges of society, you are living outside the law, or on the fringes of the law. You don't abide by normal rules, laws that apply to most people. So, anyway, for the OG Loco brand, that's what the skull represents. So, order your T-shirt, your thermostat, represent the original gangster. So let me talk about Little Wayne here. I'm gonna let him go because he wants to go play, and then I'm gonna get into genetics. And I want you guys to follow along because I was talking to a friend last night about this, and this is gonna get deep. So hopefully I can explain it to where the average person can understand it. And so I'm gonna take us back into history. So Little Wayne, he is my breeding. He is a three-way cross of Mayday off the male camp Michael Myers blood, which is basically heavy bred Mayday and his sister Dragon Lady, with an out on Grand Champion buck. I really like the Michael Myers blood. It's been working for me. I like that blend of the Mayday line off the Michael Myers. I'm getting really good dogs off that blending into my program. And then he's my old family red breeding that I've had for 35 years off of my dogs that originated in Southern California, that I started with back in 1990. So we're going back major generations. And then he's a third on the Epinet Earl Jr. blood, heavy off the Epinet Casper blood. So if you know that breeding, he's a very well-bred dog. He's the only survivor in the litter. And the only reason I'm not keeping him is I don't need males. I got enough males to last me 5-6 years. But if I'd like to get him to a working home at a working man's price, and then work with somebody to get pups off him later. So ideally, that's my goal with him. If for some reason I can't find him a quality home, and I'm very picky on who my dogs go to, then he's going to be here. I'll just make room for him. I don't have a lot of the Chinaman blood on the yard, so he would be another genetic out for some of my pure old family reds, and he brings the Mayday. And the three-way cross, so people understand in history why I did it. He's three-way cross on tight family bred dogs, the Mayday, old family red, and Chinaman. So each of those individual lines are tight family bred for generations, and they have different traits. So what you're trying to do with the three-way cross is produce an ace. And in an ace is a dog that has no weakness. He has traits from each of those families all combined in one dog. So if you were to take the traits of the Mayday dogs, which are going to be game, powerful, hard-biting finisher type dogs, and then the old family red is going to be game, very intelligent dogs. I mean, human intelligent. It's crazy how smart those dogs are. Very family oriented, so they're very submissive to humans. Crossed with the Chinaman stuff off the Earl Jr., which is going to be straightforward, hard-biting finisher type dogs, game dogs. So when you combine those three families and genetics of those three families in a three-way cross, ideally you're going to produce a dog that has all those traits, and you want them to have it all, no weaknesses. And that's the purpose of breeding. The purpose of breeding is to breed dogs that you're reducing the weaknesses in that dog so you get as close to the perfect dog as possible. And that was the goal with Little Wayne, is the three-way crosses was to produce a dog with no weakness. And I did the genetics and, of all the great dogs that were in the ROM and Champions and the Sporting Dog Journal under Jack Kelly, which is the era I came up in. and studying their genetics, because I'm a breeder, you know, and I think that's my specialty, that's my lane. I breed dogs. Uh, uh, you know, there's different types of dog, man. I'm a breeder, so I really specialize in breeding and genetics in my own family of dogs. The great dogs typically all had one thing in common. They had a good balance in their gene pool when you break them down. They were like a 30-30-30 split of three different families. And ideally, those dogs became great producers because they're contributing a balance of genes to their pups and grandpups because they're balanced. Okay. I always use the pedigree of Anderson's champion Tonka. I broke that down one time, and uh, he is a three-way cross, when I recall, and his genetics were very balanced. And he was known as one of the great producers, not so much as an ROM, but as a POR. And the POR basically is there's two types of producers. Okay, an ROM is you could become a dog can become an ROM in one litter, meaning it produces three champions. But that might be the only litter it ever did it in, and it's an ROM. A POR is a dog that produces winners in every litter it produces. So every litter, the percentages of producing a winner uh, is very high, and no matter what dog you breed it to, in every breeding, you're going to get at least a couple dogs that are winners, and that's what the POR, why it was started. So when you look at some of the breeding on these dogs, that they may not be on the ROM list because they didn't produce three champions, but they could be on the POR list because they produced 20 one-time, two-time winners in every litter. So their percentages of producing winners are higher, no matter how the bitch is bred, that you're going to get something good off that dog no matter what. And Anderson's Tonka was one of those dogs, and I think his son Meathead was another one. Very high percentage dogs of producing winners, and they just don't get the recognition. But if you break down like Tombstone, he wasn't bred very much, and he's on the ROM list. And there's a lot of great dogs out there that didn't live very long, and they weren't bred very much, but they produced a lot of winners in their short breeding career. And those are the genes you want to look for. You want to study those dogs. You want to look at how are they bred, why were they such great producers, and what would have been their impact had they lived a full breeding career, 12 years, 10, 12 years. So ideally, getting back to Little Wayne, that's what we're trying to produce. Is the three-way cross, and we'll see. We'll see what happens. I've only done it one other time, and those dogs seem to be working. So I did it with the Garner Frisco, or the Garner's chemo blood out. This one is the same breeding with the Earl Jr. up in the Earl Jr. blood out. Oh, buddy, yeah, and you're a lover too. Yeah. So let's talk about. I want to get into deep. This is where I want to get deep in today, is the genetics. And then I want to follow with my last breeding that is due next month in this live today. Uh, so if anyone's interested in getting an OG Loco, pure OG Loco family red dog, I'll talk a little bit to wrap up this live today. But let's talk genetics, and I might get lost in this discussion, so that's why I just wanted to lay that out there. So let's start off. Not everybody is a breeder. Okay, just because you breed two dogs doesn't make you a breeder. To be a great breeder, you have to know the genetics, you have to know the history, you have to know the traits, and you have to have a vision. This is what I'm starting with, and this is where I want to be in 5 years. And then you have to lay out a game plan of, I'm going to breed this dog to this dog to get these traits and these types. Then you select them, you find the traits, and then you move forward. Then I'm going to breed that dog to that dog. It becomes a chess game because you have to see the whole. You have to see the whole playing field. You have to see the whole chess table to see how it works and how it all fits together. You want to go play? You go play. Yeah, go play. Don't get killed. So that's why being a breeder, some people have success at it and some people don't, because not everyone's a breeder. And then we got into a discussion yesterday that a lot of people say, well, you're line breeding of dogs of old blood. Anything after 3 generations has no influence on your pups. That's why a lot of people don't value the old blood. And that is such a naive comment. And that's just people that don't know how to breed, that don't understand. And I'm going to go into this, and this is where I'm going to get deep. Because I got on a spiel last night with a good buddy of mine, a young up-and-coming breeder. And, I was like, man, I got to do a live on this. This sounded good. So, I study all kinds of breeding for my breeding program. I study how other breeds of dogs, like hunting working dogs, like hounds and terriers, are bred, and how they're tested and how they're selected to keep the dogs working. I study race horses, thoroughbreds and quarter horses, how they're bred to keep them performing at a high level. I study cutting horses and reining horses breeding programs. I study all kinds of programs, breeding programs, to see what I can take and apply it to my breeding program. If it's working in other fields, it should be working in mine, using the same philosophy and the same approach. But one of the things I've been doing recently is studying human genetics. And this is where I'm going to get deep today. And this is where we went last night, was human genetics. Bear with me. I might sound like I'm going off track, but I'm not. I'm going to get into subject matters that probably a lot of people don't agree with or don't understand. But let's talk evolution. And I'm going to be objective about evolution. Evolution, the theory of evolution, the way we were taught in school, that humans are a product of primates. Okay, that we were an evolution of primates that came up through millions of years to be the humans we are today. That is not true. There's no way that can be true. For the simple fact that every living specimen has a number of chromosomes. So this is why you can't crossbreed certain species. That's why a dog cannot crossbreed with a cat, why a horse cannot crossbreed with a cow, because the chromosomes don't line up. The DNA doesn't line up. And because they don't line up, you don't get fertile eggs. Or you might get a fertile egg, you're just not going to get an embryo. It's just going to die. It doesn't happen. So that's why you don't have crossbreed species. Only species that come from the same family that have similar chromosomes that line up can reproduce. And even some of them, you could produce an offspring, but they're sterile. But if you could produce offspring that can go on and produce offspring, then you're from the same species. And this is why evolution doesn't apply, because if we truly came from primates, then you can go fuck a monkey today and get it pregnant and have a half human, half monkey baby. But genetically, that can't happen because the chromosomes in the monkey don't line up with the chromosomes in a human. Therefore, you can't produce an offspring. We're not the same species. So therefore, evolution, that we came from primates to humans, don't apply. It can't happen. But we do have DNA today in modern day humans of Neanderthal and Denisovians. And there's probably other ones they haven't found yet in our DNA, like typically, I think they all say it goes back to Homo erectus. These were not primates. These were similar beings to humans because we were able to breed with them, produce offspring with them, and their DNA runs in a lot of humans today. You find Neanderthal DNA in Europeans, you find Decennian DNA in Asians. Um, so those DNAs, they say, well, Decennians and Neanderthals died out. Well, no, they didn't die out, they were absorbed. We are a product today of Homo sapien, Decennian, Neanderthal, and probably whatever else they haven't found yet. And that's in the genome. So in order for that to happen, and we're talking 500,000 years ago, they're finding that shit today in DNA, that they could take your DNA from a tooth or a finger bone or whatever, and they could genome it, whatever the fuck the word is, back 500,000 years, and they could identify your markers. And those markers are typically done through mitochondrial DNA, which is the mother. And now we're going to get into how I'm going to bring all this back to dog breeding. So mitochondrial DNA is the only DNA that's passed down from mother to mother, mother to daughter, daughter to mother, mother to daughter. So you can trace your maternal line all the way back thousands and thousands of years, that you're carrying the DNA of ancient ancestors through your mother's DNA, through her mitochondrial DNA markers. That is a proven fact today. So if we have modern humans that carry DNA, and some of the DNA creates the characteristics, they're showing that some of the things that we have in humans today are from the Neanderthal DNA or from the Decennian DNA, that those traits are in modern humans. That's where it came from. It's not from Homo sapiens. So your mitochondrial DNA from your mother's side goes back thousands, probably to the beginning of time. I think if they really track it, and that's true, to the beginning of time, you today carry your mother's DNA all the way back to the beginning of time. That's a fact. You ain't gonna find no primate in there. You ain't gonna find no chimpanzee or ape, because they're different species. Okay, if we were the same species, we'd be able to breed with them today because we had the same number of chromosomes. We know we can't do that today, but we could breed with Decennian and Neanderthals, meaning they were the same species as Homo sapiens. So we are a product of these different human species that existed at one time. And so understanding that and understanding mitochondrial DNA and how it works and how the influences of over 500,000 years show up in modern humans today, we've only been breeding game-bred pit bulls for a little over 150 years in America. They might be a couple hundred years old in the span of time when they came over from, before there were pit bulls, there were fighting dogs from Ireland and England and Spain and those other countries before the United States was a country in 1776. But the official breed of the American Pit Bull Terrier did not start till 1890, and that was UKC, which was the first breed. And it was a fighting breed, so you had to fight your dogs to get papers, so they had to prove themselves in the pit. And then ADBA, I think, started in the 1900s, early 1900s. So they started tracking the breedings of fighting dogs to create the American Pit Bull Terrier. So think about it, it's only, it's not that old, compared to DNA of humans that they're finding today. So when I hear the argument, well, anything beyond 3 generations has no influence in your dogs, how can you say that? How can you say that a mitochondrial DNA that they can track over 500,000 years, and it has an influence on modern humans, yet anything beyond 3 generations in your dog's pedigree doesn't? That doesn't make sense. That doesn't click. That's not logical. That's ignorance. So if you're doing family breeding and you're stacking genes, okay, that means in your gene pool of the dogs that you're breeding, you're line breeding or inbreeding, you're doing it within a family, off a family tree. They're all related. So you have common ancestors. Well, now you've increased the propensity of those genes in your family to show up in your dogs today because they're highly concentrated. That means when the chromosomes between the sire and dam line up, they're probably going to pull from the common ancestors in their gene pool, because it's a random selection. When you reduce the number of dogs in your pedigree, that random selection gets smaller. So you're pulling traits from those dogs in the pedigree, and those traits will show up in your pups. Strong traits, strong, highly concentrated traits, especially in the mitochondrial DNA on your females. So, following the same concept on the humans, if you took your dam and followed her dam line all the way back, I guarantee you your dogs today have traits that are influenced back to the early breed of dogs. And I'm going to tell you why. And this is just common sense here. The American Pit Bull Terrier is a breed that has been mastered by fire in the pit. It was tested. Okay. Those dogs that were tested and were superior fighting dogs showing deep gameness, that wouldn't quit, that would even scratch to their death, knowing death was inevitable, were selected, and those genes were captured in the gene pool, and they were line bred off of. So the dogs we have today, if you trace them back, they're all going to go back to a handful of fighting dogs, early fighting dogs. Colby, Old Family Red Nose, Leitner and Hemphill, Corvino, Heinzel, some of the early breeders that it sort of came in waves. Yeah, the early breeders that started the breed that were fighting these dogs, and they were able to capture the game traits in those dogs. And then other breeders that were fighting dogs would take those previous breeder dogs and build off them and line breed off that, and then another wave of generation of breeders would come in and do the same thing. So you could track your dog's pedigree all the way back to these basic families that started the breed in the early 1900s. And the reason these dogs are game today, the reason that these dogs will scratch to their death and they won't quit, is because their genes and genetics in their gene pool go back to dogs that did the same thing. Okay, that's why they're game today. So to say that a dog 3-4 generations has no influence on your dogs today, if you have a game dog that's scratching today, the dogs in that pedigree all the way back to the beginning of time play a role, because through the mitochondrial DNA, it shows up in your dog. That's why your dog is game. Your dog is not game just because it's game. Your dog is game because it was bred off game dogs. It was bred off the back of game dogs, who were bred off the back of game dogs, that were all tested in the pit and tested by fire. That's why your dog's game today. That's why you cannot kill that gameness in your dog. It's just wired that way. That's why that dog is born game. You're either born game or you're born a cur. Is if you're born game, you're just game. If you're born a cur, you're just a cur. You can't, that's just the way you're wired. So when you're looking at breeding, and this is really where the epiphany went off on me yesterday. If we know for a fact today, if you crossbreed your dog, your game bred pit bulls with another breed of dog, they're not game. If gameness was true, then you could breed pit bulls to any other breed of dog and produce match quality deep game dogs that are going to scratch till they die. Okay. We know by crossbreeding, game bred pit bulls with other breeds are not as game as purebred pit bulls. And that tells you right there, because of that fact, that genetic fact, that your dogs have to be bred on the back of game dogs to be game in their gene pool, in their mitochondrial DNA, all the way back to the beginning of time. Otherwise, you would have had band dogs that were better fighting dogs than purebred pit bull. Band dog is a mixture between a mastiff and a pit bull. Um, like the Hulk. The Hulk's not a pit bull, he's a band dog. Uh, he's not as game as a purebred, a 30-pound deep game pit bull. That the little 30-pounder not going to quit. He's probably going to die before he quits. So because you must now, if you're breeding game working dogs, they have to come from game working dogs, and you can't, and the percentages could drop if you try to crossbreed out. We know that. We know that as breeders today. That's already been proven. That's why the American Pit Bull Terrier today is the greatest fighting dog to probably ever live. It's definitely the greatest fighting dog today, but I would say probably to ever live. And that's why crossbreeding them doesn't produce the same caliber of dogs. So if you understand that concept, then you have to understand that the DNA and chromosomes in your dogs are being pulled from the dogs in that pedigree all the way back to the beginning of time. Meaning that population of genes that are in your dog today, let's say this is your dog, these are all the genes in it. When you break down each of the genes, there's thousands of genes. They're pulled from game dogs, that are pulled from game dogs, that are pulled from game dogs. So all the way back through the mitochondrial DNA, we know for a fact that the mother side contributes those genes to the pup today, just like in the humans. And I'm thinking if we're doing this for 150 years, couple hundred years, that is a drop in time compared to the DNA they're finding in humans with Denisovans and Neanderthals. I mean, 100 years in our lifetime is just a speck in time. You're trying to make the biggest impact on the world in your short 100 years if you live that long. I think average age is 70, 75. So when you're looking at that in time and you're looking at pedigrees, your pedigrees influences at even 15 generations back probably has a higher influence on your dogs today than you believe, for that mere fact. Especially if that family of dogs are line bred and they're family bred. That means that they're highly concentrated in your gene pool. That means you're pulling on that family, the common ancestors. And you're going to get those traits showing up in your dogs. So if the trait was deep game, hard biting, rough dogs, that's probably those dogs in your gene pool were that way too. That's why your dog is deep game, hard biting. And you go all the way back. If you had high percentage, let's say someone did a cross out with a bully. If you started breeding heavy on the bully side of your family and your pit bull cross, that dog's not going to be game, because you're breeding away from gameness, because the bully was not bred to be a game dog. But if you bred back more toward the game side, your percentages would be low. You might get one game dog if you keep breeding like a cross back to deep game dogs. The genes are in there, they're probably really low percentages. You would have to go through, breed a lot of dogs, do a lot of testing, a lot of culling to find the one dog that you want to find to move forward with and line breed. So it can be done. It just takes a lot of work and a lot of time. So most people, you don't have the time and work to do that, take that risk. So you take family of dogs that are known for being game and you line breed them. So in my breeding program, all my dogs are working bred, game bred for over 30 years. I know that because I hunt my dogs, firsthand knowledge. I know the great, great, great grandparents to all my dogs. I had them. I saw them work. I saw them hunt. I know what their strengths and weaknesses are. I know they're bulldog. They bang. They're bangers, man. They will get down. So I know that. When I look for crosses, because you could only breed pure for so long before you lose hybrid vigor. And that's also been proven in humans. You start getting a lot of mental health issues, you start getting a lot of physical issues, low fertility, all those things of too much inbreeding can set you back. So you need to add new fresh blood to loosen up the gene pool a little bit so you could keep your dogs working at a high level. So when I'm looking at crossing in, I'm looking at families of dogs of a different family that are also family bred off game dogs. So I'm not introducing blood or genes into my breeding program that are going to set me back. I'm introducing genes and blood into my breeding program that are going to complement my dogs and make them better. Game dogs on top of game dogs on top of game dogs. So some of my crosses that I use for all my pure blood, because all my pure blood is getting pretty tight now, but they're all off working dogs, so I know those dogs bang. But I know also I'm getting pretty tight that I need to loosen them up. So a few years back, I started doing crosses within the family that would loosen up the gene pool that I could breed in my pure dogs. And eventually all my pure dogs will eventually have some out in them somewhere, because I just can't keep them pure that long into the future. So I started doing the red boy stuff. I started crossing with the red boy on my old family reds. I started crossing with the Mayday on my old family reds. I started crossing with the Chinaman on my old family reds. I'm going to do a few other things, probably with the Tombstone Bolio on my old family reds, to loosen up those gene pools. But all those family of dogs that I'm adding to my family, one is, if you go far back enough in their pedigree, they all have common ancestors. They're all going to come off of Colby, Corvino, Old Family Red. They're going to have it somewhere in their gene pool. They're just not going to be as tightly bred on the family like my dogs. So when I cross them, it's not really a true outcross because my blood's old. My blood's over 100 years old. The Old Family Red goes back to the early 1900s. It's just way back in those dogs that you don't see them. But on the genetic sense of things, on the mitochondrial DNA, it's just a speck in time. It's not really that far back in time. Genetics, it's gonna pull them out, because 100 years is a speck in time in DNA. It just seems like a lot of time for us. So by crossing those dogs into my family of dogs, I'm now loosening up the gene pool, but I'm using blood that complements each other, and it's all game blood on top of game blood, so I'm going to produce game dogs, which is my goal, produce game working dogs. And then eventually, as I blend it in, like a blender, it'll still be OG Loco Family Reds, it'll still have all the traits of OG Loco Family Reds, but in the gene pool, it'll have a little out so they're not so tightly family bred. So they will look like OG Loco Family Reds, they will act like OG Loco Family Reds. In their gene pool that you can't see, they're gonna have the genetic out in them, and they'll be able to produce, and they'll be able to continue to work at a high level so I don't get inbreeding depression, because that's something that happens with the dogs. If you breed too tight, you get inbreeding depression. You want to keep your dogs with hybrid vigor working. I want these dogs popping at the end of the chain. I want them with high prey drives, hard mouth, rough, game, very game, fearless, don't hesitate. So when I'm out in the woods or I'm out hunting and all I have is my knife on me, I need to make sure I got a dog that's going to get down if we run into something. I don't need a dog that's going to run and leave me there like, oh shit. I need a dog that if we get down, it's like Like me and my brother, me and some friends growing up, we'd be back to back. It's like I knew you were back there, man. We were getting down, whether we end up on the floor or we walk away from this. I knew they were down, and not all my friends were that way. But I had a select few that I knew if you went into battle with them, we're all going to be laying on the floor together or we're all walking away together. But that's the way I wanted my dogs. I want a dog that's going to get down with me because I'm going to get down. So I need a dog that's going to get down with me, and hopefully together we can prevail and walk away from it. And I do hunt in areas where there are bear and mountain lions, so you never know what you're going to run into. But the other thing is, if I'm out hunting, prey is smart, intelligent, and it's fast. Sometimes you can barely see him out of the corner of your eye. You go, did I just see something? What the fuck was that? Well, your dog got to see it before you see it, because his prey drive is so high. He's hunting, he's on high alert. He's going to see that flash and boom, he's on it, or she's on it. And they're going to chase it and catch it for you. So I need dogs like that. I need dogs that are going to be game, high prey drive, working, not hesitate. They're actively looking for things, and they're going to catch and they're going to hold. And even, they get sliced up. I mean, I got dogs that, they're fighting with wild animals to catch them, and they get cut up pretty bad. I need a dog that can take what it dishes out. I don't need a dog that's going to quit or shy away or hesitate because the side of his face gets sliced open by a nutria razor sharp teeth, or a raccoon's gouging its eyes out to where it can't see and chewing its face off. Those things happen. I've seen them happen. I need a dog that's going to finish what it starts, and win, lose, or draw, or dies, is not going to quit. And that's what I breed for. And I breed for that in my program, but I also know in my dog's gene pools they're derived from dogs like that. They come from a history of dogs like that. The dogs that I have selected have shown the traits that I look for as a breeder that show up in my dogs today. So that is why breeding is not for everybody. That is why you have to have a vision, you have to have a program, you have to know. I would rather breed to a deep game working dog that I've seen firsthand hunt. And I go, that's a game dog, man. I mean, I don't know how it's bred, but that's a game dog. And breed off that then of a famous well-bred dog that I've never seen it work, so I'm basing it on someone else's story. And just because it's famous and it's bred a certain way doesn't mean the offspring that were selected off that dog were working. And that's really the key, is just because your pedigree shows all these great dogs in it doesn't mean those dogs that were selected in the breeding program were truly working, because you didn't see them go, you didn't see them hunt. And that's the danger when you find somebody. So it's not how the dog is bred, it's not how it's pedigree, it's the breeder and the standards that breeder is using to produce dogs. That is the difference. You could have two similar bred dogs, similar pedigrees, two different breeders. One breeder standard might be breeding to a working standard, a high standard of game working dogs, that if that's what you're looking for, you're probably going to get that type of dog from that breeder. Another breeder using the same type of dogs might be breeding toward a show standard, more for confirmation, not testing them, not working them, not pushing them to their limits. Well, that's the type of dog you're going to get, even though the pedigrees are the same. So this is why I say, look at the breeder, look at the program, look at the dogs that are working on them, see the dogs that are working on them, do your research. I mean, if there aren't videos of these dogs working or hunting, then they're probably not gonna, you can't expect to say, oh, I went and bought this dog off this working line that I never seen any proof that these dogs are working or hunting, no videos, there's no one using them, and expect to get a working dog. It doesn't work that way. You can't be disappointed. You get what you pay for. And if that's what you're buying, if you're looking for $500 dogs, that's what you're going to get, $500 dogs. You know, if you're looking for well-bred gene pools of working line that you can build off of, then the chances of you getting that are higher if you go to a breeder that has that type of program. And that's what you're looking for. You get what you pay for. They're not going to be cheap. Don't get me wrong. They're not going to be cheap. And it's like everything in life. When I was a kid, I bought $50 pit bulls. But as I got deeper in it and I looked for quality, well, of course, I had the financial resources to buy better dogs. Same with my horses, same with my motorcycles. It's everything in life. As I got better, more financially stable, I started buying better quality because I could afford it. And even when I couldn't afford it, I found the way to buy it because I knew in the long run, my investment and the return of what I'm trying to do on the dogs is going to be higher by buying a higher quality gene pool than a dog that isn't well bred or isn't coming from a working program. So ideally, that's where you're at. So let me wrap this up and then I'll get in my breeding program. Then I'm going to wrap this live up today because my battery is getting low. So going back to Neanderthal, Denisovans, Homo sapiens, I don't believe in evolution. I guess there's two. Let me wrap this up too. The Nephilim, giants. We do know there were giants that they found skeletons of giants that existed in society. We do know there were giants. And the Bible speaks of giants, and even old texts, Sumerian texts, speak of giants. That little shit's ripping up my couch. So we do know giants existed. I mean, Native American theology and history and the Bible, everyone speaks of giants and the Nephilim, and we do know that. And we do the history, and especially with the Anunnaki and the Bible, they talk about these giants were from a mixture of gods and humans. Okay, so I think about that. If we do know giants existed, and that's the theory on giants, then whatever that alien species were, whether they were angels or demons or aliens, whatever the fuck you want to call them, had to have the same DNA to breed with human women, to produce offspring, to produce these Nephilim, to produce these giants. Okay, so whatever being that was that crossed with humans in theology and history that they have proof of, had to have human DNA, or at least had to have the same type of chromosomes to line up with human DNA to produce offspring, to produce these giants. So that's one of the things that I think you question is, okay, they weren't humans, but they were something of, maybe we were derived from these creatures. That's why we have similar DNA. I don't know. But anyway, I wanted to wrap that up as like, there were giants. We know that. And we do know that they say they were crossed from angels or demons with human women and produce these offspring. So my question is, then we had to have similar chromosomes, similar DNA in order for that to happen, because genetically, that's the only way you can crossbreed with Neanderthals and Denisovans and Homo sapiens, that we are a product today of these different humans that existed at one time. So anyway, that's what I wrap up on that. Okay, let's talk about my last breeding, then I gotta check out. So for those of you who want a pure OG Loco, the good shit, the best shit, the pure blood that's working, it's banging, that there isn't, it's rare, there isn't a lot of it out there, but it's coming off good blood. It's coming off blood no one else has. Let's say that. There ain't nobody that has this shit because it's that blue magic shit. It hasn't been stepped on. It's pure. It's the highest quality. It's like as pure as you can get. And it's working and it's coming off working dogs. I have that. It's not cheap and I don't sell a lot of it. Only maybe a couple out of every litter. But my pure stuff is getting better. And that's this breeding I just did. I have pups due in October. I'm probably going to sell only one or two because most of them, I'm going to keep a couple. Most are going to OG family. Once you're in the family, you know, part of the OG family breeding program, we all work together. We trade pups. So they always get first option of anything I breed because they're working with me and they're in the family. And I trust them. And we have a common goal. To break in, you got to buy in. And then once you buy in and you prove yourself that you're committed to the program, you're committed to working with people to improving these dogs within the OG family, then you get access to that blood. But I always give people an opportunity to buy in. It's like, hey, here's your shot if you truly want one. So I bred OG Scooby. He's a living legend. He's a living OG. I have him on the yard. He's up there in age now. To his own daughter, OG Loco's Lady in Red, also known as Little Bit. First time I've done this breeding. And she's due October. Now, OG Scooby, he bangs. I mean, OG Scooby's a dog that I never, ever have to worry about if he's going to show up. He's like my partner. He's going to be there. He's going to be there no matter what. And he's going to bang. And he's off of a dog like that, OG Jew, who was the same way. His sire was probably, you know, people ask me, this came up yesterday, how come you let your dogs play with each other on the chains? How do they touch? Well, not all my dogs can do that. Only certain dogs can. OG Scooby and OG Loco, I could put young female or any female between them. They love the women. They love women. Okay. They rather try to fuck them than fight them. And so they're trying to. They think they're, you know, they think they're suave. They think they're Casanova. They're trying to seduce them. They're not trying to hurt them. And I typically put young females in between my older males because that's how I train them to hunt with each other. What you don't want to do is take a hunting pair out that never knew each other or weren't raised around each other, don't know each other, and then turn them loose because there's a good chance they're going to fight. But if you raise them together and they know each other and they're familiar with each other because you've been letting them interact, then you have a good hunting pair. And that's how I break my dogs to be hunting pairs. And I use my older males. I do have some dogs like OG Jew, who was OG Scooby sire, and Cajun Bell, and a couple other ones. Their drive to fight is so high that they can't help themselves. They're going to attack another dog. They're going to attack another animal. And that's really the mental balance in these dogs. Is some dogs are bred, they're wired that way that the propensity to fight is so high, they can't get along with nobody. They can't get along with males, females, puppies, cats. As soon as they get loose, they're going to hit. As soon as they get loose, get near another dog, they're going to hit. That's just the way they're wired. They can't help themselves. For a hunting dog, I don't look for those traits. So I need a well-balanced dog that can hunt with other dogs, but it's still game. And just because a dog is dog aggressive and it's fight crazy doesn't mean it's game, because the only way to test a dog's gameness is whether it'll quit or not. Okay, it could start off hot and fast, but you know, if it can't take what it dishes out, it could quit. You know, and I've seen that. I've seen dogs that can't take what they dish out, and as soon as they're put on the bottom or put behind, they'll quit. As long as they're riding top and they're in control, you know, they won't quit. And this reminds me of a story. I'll wrap this up. Reminds me of a story. I got in a fight when I was in high school with some dude. Anyway, they sort of jumped me, him and his buddy, when I was out in my car, and you know, we got out, we boxed a little, and then I got a little pissed. I was like, 2-on-1. That wasn't fair because anytime you're fighting two guys at one, you're always looking at where the other guy is. You can't focus on the guy in front of you. So I got mad and I went back to his house, called him out. Well, the guy I fought didn't want to fight me, but his older brothers or friends, these are adult men, all come out, like 5 of them, and I was surrounded. And I had my brother with me. And anyway, the other guy wants to fight me. So I said, fuck it, get down. So he's getting the best of me. Boom, 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 has me down. Boom, 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 boom. So his big brother tells my brother, don't jump in. All right. Well, my brother knew me. And about, I don't know, 5 minutes into it, I come to the top and I just start boom, 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 fucking this guy. This guy starts screaming like a bitch. Somebody help me, get him off me, somebody help me. Well, my brother tells the other guys, don't jump in. That's what you guys said. So they're seeing me fucking rack up this guy. He's screaming, well, his fucking bitch jumps in and scratches my face up because none of the other guys would jump in and help him. Anyway, he was a true bitch, bitched up. So he was a guy of a real life example that could not take what he dished out. And he only nutted up with me because he was in front of his older brothers and family who thought they were going to help him. It was shocking that they didn't. And anyway, they didn't want to fuck with me after that. They knew I'd show up at their house. They knew I didn't give a fuck. You get that reputation. That was when I was young and stupid. There ain't nobody going to save you from me, motherfucker. That's what was my attitude. Well, I see that with the dogs. And I see that with gameness. Is as long as those dogs are in control, they're game. But you don't know if they're truly game when they're put on the bottom or the odds are against them. Then you see if they dig deep, if they got heart, if they're willing to scratch, if they're willing to come back to the top. Those are things that traits in these dogs. So don't ever confuse dog aggression, meanness, killer instinct with gameness. Gameness is another trait that you can't really understand until you see it. And you say, that's a game mountain. That's where respect comes in, even with people. That's a game motherfucker. I don't give a fuck he's getting his ass kicked. I don't give a fuck if his odds are against him. That's a game motherfucker, and show him the respect and recognize him as a man. He's a man. He stood up. And we don't do that today. So anyway, that's my wrap up. Man up. If you want an OG Loco dog, get in touch with me. This is my first live. Later.